gives. I am very pleased to welcome Marty Thompson back for our meditation and message today. We're glad to have you in person with us. And she's sharing a series over this church year, as I mentioned. Today is the second in that series. Marty Thompson completed seminary in May 2024 at the UU House of Studies at Methodist Theological School in Delaware, Ohio. She served as the intern minister at the UU Fellowship of Lyman, a lay-led congregation like ours. She's been at UU for more than 40 years. She recently moved to Fort Wayne and is happily discovering her new community. Please join me in welcoming Marty to our pulpit as we do our microphone exchange.
It's better down.
Better down, what do you mean? Oh.
Good thing I'm not fussy about what's here.
We're a mess.
All right.
Please step out of your way. Here's your
I'm looking for those.
Here's your folder. Oh, it's on the top.
Okay. That's this.
Good. There we go. There's your folder. I don't want to mess with that.
Thank you.
And there's your clicker.
Okay.
Remember to point it at the computer.
Great.
So many instructions.
It's great to be with you. So I told Jan that the title is just a little bit of a literary puzzle to the Dancing Frogs of Multnomah County. And my husband says, well, it should have meaning. I mean, like whatever you're referring to, it should have some meaning that fits. It doesn't. It's just the title. And it's from a short story I read in grade school by Mark Twain called The Jumping Frogs or The Leaping Frogs, Frog of Calaveras County. And so when I found out Multnomah and Calaveras, that fits right in. Then I had my title. So, oh, this is the meditation I'm launching into. Okay. Reverend Sophia Betancourt, the president of the UUA, tells us our tradition teaches that love's reach is expansive enough to include everyone, that no one is excluded from worth and dignity, and that this love that we put at the center of our faith has the power to overcome the fear that silences and stills us. We must be intentional about moving fear out of the center and replacing it with love. So, give you a few seconds here, a few moments to sit with that and think about what would it look like? What would it Nina Simone had a song that was, I wish I knew what it would feel like to be free. So we can think about what would it feel like to be free of fear. But the hymn was a brilliant choice for a day when we're looking to replace fear with courage. Here's what the organizers of the Frogs of Portland had to say about the power of tactical frivolity. What they rely on is fear. So by coming out in an absurdist manner, it says, we're actually not all that afraid. Frogs strong together. This dismantles their narrative of a war-ravaged Portland. Portland is a city with a proud tradition of protest, and it can get pretty creative about it if you watched the news and saw the emergency naked bike ride and the frogs and the inflatables facing down masked ICE agents. So I shared with you last month that for me, at the heart of everything I think about as a UU is the first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of all. And so that will be woven through each of these sessions. But also today, what I think I'd like to invite you to examine with me is the right of conscience and use of democratic processes within our congregations and in society at large. And as a shared value, justice. We work to be a diverse, multicultural, beloved community where all can feel welcome and thrive. So how do the dancing frogs of Multnomah County, embody that? Our tradition teaches, as Sophia Betancourt said, that no one is excluded from worth and dignity. Now, I know that many of you are longtime UUs and some have put in less time in our pews. But after 40 years, or I guess it was 35 or so at the time that I went to seminary, I could tell you what UUs did, but I don't know that I would have been able to put into words the theology that underlies it. So we're a liberal religion. And what that means, and this is not up there, what that means, we have competing religious values, competing liberal values. We have a deep commitment to individual freedom, freedom of religious inquiry, and openness to divergent views. We have, and the competing thing, there's that individualism, but we have a competing and counter desire for community. So, if you come out of a religious tradition that tells you, this is what we believe, and you have a creed and you make that pronouncement in your worship services, to come to our congregations that are non-creedal and covenantal, you may be confused, and you may also kind of feel at sea, what am I supposed to believe? And we are bad at telling you what we believe. We're very careful not to step on toes. We're like a waiter. If you go to a restaurant and the waiter would come out and say, "Good evening. This evening I will not be serving Mexican food, nor will I be serving Thai, nor will I serve you Italian food. This would not help you understand what's on the menu." My goal has been, and I believe that it is a necessary prerequisite to letting people know, the people who need us, to let them know we're here, is to help UUs articulate their faith, despite these tensions that are just inherent in liberal theology. You know, like I said, and as you, the first Sunday that anybody comes here, it becomes evident. We don't have a creed. We don't have a set of beliefs that you have to profess. We have covenants and principles and values, autonomy, inclusiveness, justice, social witness. And while most UUs probably don't hold traditional Christian beliefs or any other traditional faith, that is not the point of UUism. That is not what makes us distinct. It's our commitment to open religious inquiry. Another thing that UUs often hear is that ours is an easy religion. You can believe whatever you want. Now, the first thing I usually say to people is, okay, our faith calls us to affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. So think about that. Is that easy? And while it's fairly easy to extend that to the faceless masses, how about that person who, you know, goes on and on and on during committee meetings, or I don't know if you don't do joys and sorrows here, do you? You don't get up sometimes. But in a larger congregation, that can become a real sticking point when the same person gets up every week and talks at great length about their grandchildren and the grandchildren's scores on the SAT, da, 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 da. And, you know, that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where it gets challenging, is in the individuals. Dan McCannon, a UU historian, tells us that UUs must believe what our conscience demands of us. So what does our conscience demand of us in October 2025? Oops, let's get past that. There's our shared values, and today we're looking at justice. And to replace fear with love, you know, that's creating communities of collective care. And that's what I see you talking about here with, you know, supporting the school, having a food drive, doing things to put yourself out in the community. And so that when things are hard, people know that there's a place where they're welcome and where they're valued. Speaking uncomfortable truths and extending radical welcome that it excludes no one. And then, like the frogs, creatively dismantling narratives of fear and replacing them with love. One that I heard about this week that I thought was brilliant, street vendors, particularly, you know, taco carts in Chicago, or people who are selling tamales. They're being rounded up by ICE. And so there are groups of mutual aid who are going out and simply buying all their, everything that they have so that they can make their day's wages and go home, not be on the street. And then whether the groups distribute them or resell them or whatever, but you know, that's protecting their neighbors, the people in their community who are most vulnerable. So last time when I talked to you, I said, you know, the content that we're gonna look at is gonna depend on the events of the day. What, I wanna know what you have seen and heard that speaks to this of acting creatively and courageously, of witness, social witness. I shared mine of the tamale vendors, and you know, the frogs have been a big one, the naked emergency bike rides, which have spread to other, well, I don't think that one has, but the inflatables have spread to other communities. Any ideas, any thoughts? Oh, you haven't, okay. You know, I had thought to embed a video, and I was having technical difficulties with that. In Portland, the protesters have been dressing up as inflatable frogs. If you do a search online, you'll find many, many videos of it. And you see these armed, masked ICE agents tear gassing frogs through their hole in there. I mean, you know, it just makes them look ridiculous and reveals them as the bullies that they are. And the frogs are dancing, you know, there's been a lot of press of the administration painting the protesters in Portland as hating America, being Antifa, which isn't a thing, and being dangerous, so dangerous, just horrifically dangerous. Mike Johnson said that this naked bike ride was the most frightening concept he had ever heard of.
Second,
Well, he said it's really ugly. So this just the notion of kind of poking a hole in their pomposity by using humor, making them look ridiculous rather than fearsome. Yes.
There was a story online about a woman who decided to go to her hometown of Beckley, West Virginia, which is way over coal country, to do a one-person No Kings rally. And she got there, and people that noticed her, MAGA people came by threatening her and yelling at her in pickup trucks. And the Beckley police department showed up and said, "Don't worry, we're going to protect you."
That's great.
You have to repeat that for the people online.
Okay, for the people online, there was a woman in
Beckley,
West Virginia, and she decided she was going to do a one-person No Kings rally. And when she showed up to do that, she was harassed by pickup trucks driving by and just yelling at her. And she was told by the police force, "Don't worry about them. We're going to protect you." Is that a fair?
yes.
Yes.
In Cottonwood Falls, Kansas, on that day, and actually other days as well, they have turned their county jail over to housing arrested people, not local, you know. It's immigration, it's an ICE facility in a town of possibly 3,000 people. And so her thing is that she wants to find ways to care for those people while they are incarcerated there. And so that's what her No Kings rally is about, to gather people around and to think of things that they could do, which is not easy because they don't want to allow them into the facility. And that's a big problem in a small town like that, because, you know, I mean, it's just an amazing thing that they would sell out to be an ICE facility.
It's a source of revenue, I assume. So that was for Cottonwood?
Cotton Falls, Kansas.
Okay, in Cottonwood Falls, Kansas, where the local police sheriff's department turned over the county jail to house detainees, basically working with ICE. A woman started for her No Kings rally. She got people together to think of ways to extend aid and comfort to those people that were being detained. And in a small community, that is a very brave thing to do. Yes.
I protested at Anderson this last time, and I met, when we were walking in, a couple that told me they were registered Republicans, they voted for Trump. But here they were at this rally, so for people that are MAGA and they flip, I think that's very courageous for them to be able to voice that, you know, because it's so hard for them to come to terms with what they believed in and now what they know is happening. And then there's a guy on Facebook, he has a page, and it's to support people that are living MAGA. It's actually called, I think it's called Leading MAGA. And so this guy is on Facebook and he, you know, gets information from people that want to switch. It's almost like a support group that he has on Facebook to support people that are leaving MAGA and joining the forces.
This is like living a cult, you know.
Yeah.
So that was, you said, where in India? Or the one that you. But where you met people, where was that?
Oh,
In Anderson?
yeah.
And it was, there were people there who had been Trump supporters and MAGA, and just things have gone a bridge too far for them, and they have stopped supporting Trump and come out against.
It's such a stronghold and difficult for people to admit that they don't believe in what he's doing right now.
And so, you know, that's a very courageous stance for them to take. So replacing fear with love, witnessing for justice. You know, one of the things I saw that the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, has asked people to do. And this was something that I've wanted to be involved in, is, you know, the idea of witness. You know, even if you can't prevent, you can witness. And he says, you know, record everything with your phone. He says, you know, that someday it may be very important to have that footage. It can become evidence in court when we get to the other side of this. You know, we are called to witness as part of our faith. So the right of conscience, use of democratic process, inherent worth and dignity of every person. But that also, the hard part of that also includes ICE, that includes Congress. And that's where the hard part of Unitarian Universalism comes in. these are strange times to be taking a deep look at our principles and values. Last spring, I spoke here and I talked about what a strange time it is to have attended seminary 2020 through 2024. And then now I'm expected to minister in the age of Trump. Kamala Harris well, no, Joe Biden was the Democratic candidate when I graduated from seminary, and then about a month later, 2 months later, it was Kamala Harris, and I was so optimistic about that I went out and bought a white dress when I saw all the white at the convention, yeah. And, I thought, oh, I'll wear this when I go to vote. It's still hanging there with its tags, maybe next time. I heard yesterday that she says, I'm not done. So, all right. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. And we can continue the conversation downstairs. And we'll see what November brings.
Turn off your microphone.